Last week we talked about multiplying and dividing integers, and we did it with manipulatives, and this is our notebook entries from last week. We talked about multiplying really meaning two groups of three. So 2 times 3 would be two groups of 3, and 3 times 2 would be three groups of 2. And we did this by modeling with our manipulatives. If we had positive 2 times positive 3, that meant two groups of positive 3. So we drew two groups and we put positive 3 in both of them, and we got positive 6. Then we modeled positive 2 times negative 3, and we said, well, that means two groups of negative 3. So we drew two groups and we put negative 3 in both of those groups, and we ended up with the answer negative 6. And then we said negative 2 times negative 3 really means the opposite of two groups of negative 3. So the opposite of negative 3 would be positive 3. So we drew two groups and we put positive 3 in both groups, and we ended up with the answer positive 6. So I tried to give some of you some hints in class. I didn't say it out loud. I was just giving hints because I wanted y'all to kind of discover what these rules meant. So let's notice when we're multiplying. If I multiplied a positive times a positive, I got a positive answer. When I multiplied a positive times a negative, I got a negative answer. And when I multiplied a negative times a negative, I got the opposite, a positive answer. Okay? So let's see if division worked the same way. Okay, this was our notebook entry from division. And we said that division actually means that you're going to distribute 10 into two groups. So you already have your total amount, and you need to distribute or break it apart or divide it into two groups. So we said positive 10 divided by positive 2 meant that there were two groups, and we needed to put positive 10 between those two groups. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we had positive 10 and we split it into two groups. So we got positive 5. Then when we did negative 10 divided by 2, we said that that really meant to distribute negative 10 into two groups. So we drew our two groups and we took negative counters that were red and we distributed them in between the two groups 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And our answer was negative 5. So then we said, well, what does negative 10 divided by negative 2 mean? And we said, well, that means to distribute the opposite of negative 10 into two groups. So we drew our two groups, and the opposite of negative 10 was positive 10. And we distributed them into the two groups 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we got positive 5. So if we go back and we see that we divided a positive times divided by a positive, that we got a positive answer. And if we look back, we had a negative divided by a positive, and we got a negative answer. Then we said a negative divided by a negative gave us a positive answer. So, when we're multiplying or dividing, we did have the exact same pattern. If we multiplied a positive times a positive, we got a positive answer. If we divided a positive by a positive, we got a positive answer. If we multiplied a positive times a negative, we got a negative answer. And if we divided a negative by a positive, we got a negative answer. And if we multiplied a negative times a negative, we got a positive answer. And the same with division. If we divided a negative by a negative, we got a positive answer. So what could our rules be? So let's write our rules down. So we're going to call this multiplying and dividing integers rules. And this is notebook entry 6. So the first thing I want you to do is come down about 3/4 of the way down and go ahead and block off this bottom block so we can write in it later. And then we're going to make us 4 quadrants up here. And we're going to write in them. So, if we multiply or divide a positive and a positive, we'll get a positive answer. So that's kind of like a smiley face. So let's explain that. Positive times a positive equals positive. Or positive divided by a positive also equals a positive. Okay? So we saw that when we combined a positive and a negative, it was sad. It was negative. So let's explain this. Positive times a negative equals a negative answer. And also a positive divided by a negative also gave us a negative answer. Now let's do negative and negative. A negative combined with a negative gave us a happy positive answer. So, negative times a negative equals positive, and a negative divided by a negative equals positive also. And I left this, technically we know about the commutative property. We talked about the commutative property and it didn't matter what order it was. But let's go ahead and mark this so we'll just not forget it. We could also do a negative times a positive, which is the same thing as here, but we're just going to write it. A negative combined with a positive, multiplying or dividing, of course, is negative. So negative times a positive equals negative, and also a negative divided by positive equals negative. Now I wanted you to leave this part because we had certain sayings with adding and subtracting, and please don't let those fall out of your ears because they're very important, because eventually we will be doing all four operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing of all rational numbers, and especially on your midterm exam that you will take before we get out for Christmas, you will have everything on there. So don't forget to not let that fall out of your ear at night. So when we were adding and subtracting, we said things like same sign equals sum, or different sign equals difference. So let's make up a little catchy saying for this. So could we say for multiplying and dividing, we have the same signs here and they're positive, and the same signs here and they're also positive. So we could say same sign equals positive. We could say same sign equals smiley, but I like positive just in case it doesn't, some people may not, when they think of smiley, they may not think of positive. I do, but let's just go ahead and say positive. So same sign, no matter whether it's positive or negative, if they're the same, it equals positive. And let's draw us a smiley face. Same signs, let's put an S here. Same signs equal positive, and different signs equal negative. And that is the end of our notebook entry today. Instead of taking a picture of your notebook entry, I have given you a slide where you can drag the different pieces. It will look like this. It'll have a positive and like a smiley looking face, or a positive and a negative and it's a sad face. And you will drag the rules from the side for multiplication or division. It'll be self-explanatory when you see it. And that's going to be your notebook entry for today. So you're not taking a picture of this, but you do need to have this in a special place so maybe you can use it when you're studying. So good luck with this. I know some of you recognized this last week. I know Isaiah for sure recognized it because he said it to me when I walked by him. He was like, well, if they're a negative and a negative, it's going to be a positive answer. And a few others said things that made me think that they had figured out the pattern. And some of you told me I don't see a pattern, so I hope you see that pattern now. So good luck with this lesson. You also have a multiplication sheet and a division sheet to turn in today. So let's get started. Bye-bye.